Good evening and welcome to another episode of Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria, a program that focuses on the potentials of the agricultural sector and the efforts of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to maximize these potentials. I'm your regular host, Gabriel Ojile. Our focus tonight is on wheat farming as we examine the wonder crop, its potentials in Nigeria, and the efforts of the ministry and its partners in boosting production in Nigeria. Do stay tuned as we unfold the program to you after this time out.
Every part of Nigeria has something to offer.
Transforming Agriculture starts with news from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, her agencies and partners. In our lineup, nomenclature of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture changes just as new minister and minister of state are inaugurated to pilot the affairs of the ministry. These and other stories coming up shortly.
The newly appointed Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, as well as Minister of State, Senator Aliu Sabi, arriving the ministry on August 21, 2023 to assume duty shortly after they were sworn into office by the President. They were accompanied by dignitaries, friends, well-wishers and supporters. Amongst the dignitaries was Governor Umara Zulum of Borno State. The Minister and the Minister of State were received and ushered into the conference hall of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security by the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Ernest Afolabi Umakihe. Welcoming the ministers at the occasion, which was witnessed by all the directors of the ministry, he pledged their support to enable the ministers to take the ministry to greater heights in line with the policy thrust of the present administration.
Honorable Ministers, we are delighted to have both of you on board. We have a crop of dedicated staff and we commit 100%, if it's possible, 101 to all your policy and your policy direction. I expect that even at this meeting and subsequent meeting, you give us your charge on the direction you think we should go, and we will follow. You are our leader. We welcome you, Honorable Minister.
I'm ready.
In his response, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, appreciated everyone for the felicitations. He disclosed that he is ready and willing to commit to the task given to him by the President, bearing in mind the challenges of food security in the country and in view of the political will of President Bola Tinubu to revive the agricultural sector and provide food security in Nigeria.
We all know the challenges that we face now. Hunger is one of the big problems that we have in this country. And when I say hunger, it also means food. And there are challenges in food production. Insecurity is one, flooding is another, pests and other issues. But for me, and I think my colleague here, and even state governors, the biggest hope we have is the political will driven by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, in mere mentioning in his renewed agenda, renewed hope agenda. And I also see that hope, that commitment in him when he declared the food emergency in the country. On the first day, he announced to the nation when he was sworn in, and has made a huge commitment to revive agriculture and secure the nation's food.
It might interest you to know.
Also speaking, Senator Aliu Sabi, Minister of State for Agriculture, shared his excitement of working with his counterpart, Senator Abubakar Kyari, in piloting the affairs of the ministry. He also shared his commitment to the task ahead.
It's my honor and privilege to to take on the next 4 years, inshallah, with the Renew Hope agenda of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, and to ensure that the rechristening of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is not without a purpose.
The governor of Borno State, Babagana Umar Zulum, was also among the dignitaries who trooped in to witness the new Ministers of Agriculture and Food Security's first day in office. Speaking at the occasion, Governor Zulum, who hails from the same state with the new minister, congratulated the ministers and urged them and other stakeholders to work in harmony and ensure that Nigeria takes advantage of the vast arable land in the country and ensure that the country attains some level of food security.
We have vast agricultural land, arable land in Nigeria. Nigeria has a total land mass of about 72,000 square kilometers. Over 60% of the land mass of Nigeria is arable. Go to southern Nigeria, you have surface waters. Humid region. The rainfall is between the region of 800 to 1,500 millimeters per annum. I wish to see this ministry take the challenge.
Meanwhile, the nomenclature of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has changed. It is now to be known as the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. This is in line with the global best practices as well as the role of the ministry in actualizing the focus of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration on agricultural development and food security. The change was announced with the assigning of portfolios to ministers on the 16th of August 2023.
You are watching Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria. Can you imagine life without bread, semolina, Indomie, and other foods made from wheat? Can you also imagine the impact self-sufficiency in wheat production can have on the prices of these goods and by extension the economy of the nation? This, amongst other reasons, is why it is imperative that Nigeria take steps to boost its wheat production. To this extent, wheat is one of the priority commodity crops that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has prioritized. The target is to reduce importation of wheat by boosting production. Let's get to know more about wheat and what the ministry is doing to increase its production in our next segment.
Bread is a staple Nigerian food. According to a Business Day report in 2022, over 10 million loaves of bread are consumed in Lagos alone, not counting the consumption in other densely populated cities like Kano, Port Harcourt, and the FCT. Bread is just one of the many products from wheat that are major staples on the diet of Nigerians. Others are noodles, spaghetti, semolina made from durum wheat, cakes, biscuits, and other confectionaries made from flour. Despite the high consumption of wheat and wheat products in Nigeria, most of the wheat used in the country is imported. According to data by the Central Bank of Nigeria, about 9 million tons of wheat is consumed annually in Nigeria, and only about 3% of this is produced locally. Data from the Lake Chad Research Institute reveals that about $6 billion is spent annually on the importation of wheat, making the commodity the second highest contributor to the nation's food import bill.
So it is a crop that we make good use of it. Unfortunately, we don't partake in its production seriously, but we are trying to reverse the trend now, because a lot of efforts are being made by government to see that we produce this crop in our regions where it can be produced.
Nigeria has potentials to produce wheat not only to sustain its local need, but also export to other countries. 13 states, namely Borno, Yobe, Bauchi, Jigawa, Gombe, Kano, Katsina, Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, Plateau, Kaduna, Adamawa are major producers of wheat, which is mostly grown during the cold season, between November and March when it is harvested.
Wheat is grown in all the 13, northeast and northwest states. Wheat is planted around, November. We use or we capitalize on the cold weather that is being experienced. It's being experienced in those states during November to March and early April to produce wheat, because wheat is a temperate crop, so it requires, cold weather for it to thrive.
According to research, Nigerian wheat is known to have high protein content and lesser gluten, as against reports that Nigerian wheat is not good enough for consumption.
We have analyzed Nigerian wheat in 2015 by FIRO and other, institutes, and we discovered that Nigerian wheat is higher in protein and lower in gluten in compared to the hard red wheat from America. So this signifies that Nigerian wheat is even more nutritious than the wheat we are importing from outside.
Despite being mostly grown in the dry season, wheat has the capacity to grow in the rainy season as well. This is, however, limited to very cold climatic conditions. And rain-fed wheat can only be grown in Plateau State, Mambila Plateau in Taraba State, and Obudu in Cross River State. In order to boost the production of wheat in Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development created a wheat desk office to enhance the production and productivity of wheat in Nigeria.
The core mandate of our unit in the wheat value chain is to increase productivity and production of wheat for self-sufficiency and import substitution.
Since the creation of the Wheat Desk Office, major improvements have been recorded. Notable is the increase in productivity of the crop. In the past, only about 80,000 metric tons of wheat was being produced in Nigeria. With the efforts of the Ministry of Agric, more than 350,000 metric tons is now being produced annually.
The ministry is able to increase, the productivity of wheat from 1.2 tons to about 2 tons. We now have our farmers getting an average of 3.2 tons. So if you can see, it's an improvement on what our wheat farmers have been doing before the inception of this program.
Aside the growth in the yield of the crop, the ministry, in partnership with its development partners, have been able to improve and develop new varieties that are more adaptive to the nation's climatic conditions, amongst other intervention programs.
The research institutes have, released, heat-tolerant varieties of wheat. We have wheat varieties like Attila Gan Attila that is capable of yielding 6 tons per hectare. We have Norman, is capable of yielding 6 tons per hectare too. Then we have Reina 28. We have rain-fed wheat. The institute was able to release 2 varieties of wheat that can be grown under rain-fed condition. We call them Crow S and then Reina 15.
To further strengthen the production of wheat in Nigeria, the Ministry of Agriculture has supported farmers with improved seedlings, fertilizer, and pesticides to help improve the production of wheat in Nigeria.
The ministry try as much as possible to support the smallholder farmer with inputs, that is the seeds, irrigation pumps, because it is a dry season crop, and some agrochemicals, growth enhancers, and the one that can attack pests and diseases. So these are the support we normally give the wheat farmers based on their associations or on individual basis at highly subsidized price.
Policies have also been created to support the wheat subsector. The ministry, in partnership with the African Development Bank, developed a wheat policy strategy document to holistically look into development of wheat production in Nigeria.
From the strategy document that we have, it is a 10-year program from 2022 to 2032. We expect that at the end of this, program, Nigeria will be self-sufficient in wheat production.
The potentials for job and wealth creation abound in the cultivation of wheat alone. This is in addition to the enormous contribution of wheat to food security and import substitution. But for there to be a significant impact in the quest to increase production, there is need to increase knowledge. Research is one sure tool that can be very effective in developing and improving any sector. And in this mission, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security has a partner in the LCRI Research Institute alongside other partners. Let's get more insight into their contributions to boosting wheat production in Nigeria.
The Lake Chad Research Institute is one of the development partners working in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in developing wheat production in Nigeria. It was established under the Research Institute Establishment Order of 1975 with a mandate to research into the improvement and development of wheat amongst other crops.
Earlier, Lake Chad Research Institute in Maiduguri had the mandate to research and develop wheat. From breeder to foundation and to certified. And they are the one that will also research into the seeds that we are saying whether we can try it in Plateau and in Mambila, Taraba State, to see if it can grow so that gradually we can occupy this country with wheat production.
We are working on materials, both local and foreign. Like I said, we have nursery here. We have yield trial, we have assessment of disease and pest. So all of those things we are researching on. What are the pests that are mostly destructive to wheat and barley? What are the diseases that are destructive to wheat and barley? And we are working on to improve some of them to become resistant to this constraint to the farmers.
According to the Institute, wheat has the capacity to be grown in commercial quantity in Nigeria, but a number of challenges hinders the full potential of the crop to be fully tapped into.
Funding is the main problem of Nigerian farmers. The fertilizer, the body of water, machines, fueling, all these things, they are constraints that we need government to put hand into it. Without that, I don't think we will be able to make it.
The Institute has outstations all across northern Nigeria, where it conducts research, evaluate and test new varieties before they are released for seed companies to produce and sell to farmers.
So the demonstration is for us now to assess it, to evaluate it, so that if there is anything that will affect production negatively, we will be able to make them aware of it. And sometimes we liaise with the seed company. We are the one that are supposed to finish our evaluation, our assessment, before we give it to seed company for production.
As a result of research carried out by the Lake Chad Research Institute, new and improved varieties of wheat have been developed to boost the production of wheat in Nigeria.
It is their mandate to research into the genetic modification they can do to bring out either wheat disease-tolerant varieties and the one that can also not be susceptible to bats, because I'm aware that has been done already. Because the problem they are having also with wheat is that the wheat farmers complain that bats normally come when it is about maturing. The bats used to suck the wheat, so that they will now drain it and it will not be it will be empty. So fortunately, the researchers now look into that, and they were able to develop the variety that has spikes, which is difficult for the bat to be able to suck the milk at that time.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture, in collaboration with the Lake Chad Research Institute, ensures that the wheat farmers don't only gain access to good and high-yielding varieties, they also ensure that farmers are kept abreast of new trends in wheat production.
Anywhere we go, we used to work with this ADP. ADP, they are the one that have contact with the farmers. So mostly we extend our technology to the ADPs contact the farmers. But if you are directly connected to us, maybe an outgrower or a contact farmer, mostly we are the one that supervise most of their activities.
Other partners the ministry works with in the development of wheat subsector are the Flour Milling Association of Nigeria, who also play a major role in supporting wheat production in Nigeria. This association partners with the ministry in ensuring that farmers are trained in right practices for adequate productivity, as well as provide all necessary materials such as good seedlings, pesticides, and fertilizer for high yield.
The Flour Milling Association of Nigeria are the major off-takers of wheat in Nigeria, and they have done a good work because over the years they have been supporting our farmers with inputs, seeds, in fact to the extent that they procured 50 multi-purpose threshers for our farmers, and then they give the farmers water pumps and etc. And what they are doing recently, for instance, last year they cultivated 4,000 hectares of seed, and they use farmers by giving them inputs, to cultivate the crop. And at the end of the day, they promise that whatever wheat farmers produce in Nigeria, they will offtake.
Thanks for joining us again on the program Transforming Agriculture.
Do you have any question about the agricultural sector?
You have crossbreeds that are fast growing. The anti-septic poverty as well is also very...
Do you have inquiries on any issues raised on the program?
The fish has been kept here since Monday, that's about 2 days ago.
Would you like to know more on agricultural processes and practice? Do send us an SMS to the number showing on your screen. You can also reach us on any of our social media platforms for more information.
With more awareness about growing wheat in Nigeria, farmers have shown interest in engaging in wheat farming. Ene Ame is one such farmer. She got to know about the potential of growing wheat from a workshop she attended in 2022. Let's hear from her in our next segment, Farmers Speak.
The reason I went into wheat production was because of the scarcity of wheat. It became very scarce, and then I went to an exhibition here in Plateau, an agro exhibition, and then I met some people from Lake Chad Institute that they currently grow wheat in Plateau State. So I asked them if there's any way they could chip in for me if I want to go into the production, and they said yes. I met with some of their staffs, and then I got my land, I bought the seed, and so far so good. They have been supervising my farm for me. When I saw the progress this one was making 3 weeks after we started, I got motivated and I started looking for more lands to expand. Then I approached somebody close by if I could lease the land from them, and they agreed. So they agreed, and then we added it to this one. This one is about a month older than the other one, you can see. So this one is we are almost harvesting, but for that one we still need about 2 months or so before we'll harvest.
Currently, there are over 500,000 registered wheat farmers in Nigeria. The Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security encourages farmers to identify with farming groups and cooperatives so that they can have access to government support. And I tell you, wheat is in the priority list of commodities that the federal government is interested in supporting to grow and develop. Until I come your way again next week, keep watching Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria and do pick up farming. Everyone stands to benefit. Bye for now.